All right, it's another edition of the Daily DTG. I'm Brian.
I'm Dean.
And today we have Eric Deem with us. And Eric, where are you from?
With Millcraft. Thank you very much, Brian.
And how long have you been in the industry?
So I've been in the industry in some form or fashion for over 20 years.
Okay, that just proves we have too many dinosaurs in this room in the industry. But let's get to the Daily DTG. All right, Eric, you've been in the industry too long.
20 years? How is that even possible?
Oh, I know.
It's showing.
I know it is.
Yeah,
I'm only 19.
Silver Fox over
You see
here.
all this? None of this came from nature. This is all DTG. Apparel decorating made me. I said I'm only 19 years old.
Yeah. Well, you got started. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you actually get started in the apparel decorating industry?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's actually a long story. I grew up in the back of a shoe store. So my family owned one of the first track and field running specific shoe stores. And I grew up as a little kid in the back of the store. We started doing events, putting on marathons and triathlons, stuff like that. My family sold the shoe side of the business to focus mainly on the apparel world, on the event world.
That's crazy. So obviously there was more sales to be had in the decorating side than the...
Well, we weren't decorating, we were putting on the events. So I actually did the design work for all of the flyers and entry forms and all that kind of stuff. And we worked with a local screen printer. And I'm a big car guy, so I decided to start my own clothing line. And so I went out, bought a bunch of equipment, bought a bunch of stuff, and I actually
dive right in, baby.
Yeah, and I got burnt really bad. I was still a teenager, because I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I got burnt pretty bad. I lost about 20 grand at one event. I would actually go on site. I would go to different. I was actually in Xenia.
Xenia, Ohio.
Yeah, yep.
Oh, okay.
So I was at a racetrack out there, and they were expecting 10,000 people to show up, and 50 showed up. It was rain. It was bad weather, and I had done so many events that I kind of knew. I was going to hit around 10% of the crowd would typically come to my booth and buy a T-shirt from us. But back then, I didn't know what was going to sell, what sizes to bring, what styles of shirts, what colors.
Was everything pre-made?
Yeah, this is pre-DTG, so everything was screen printed.
Well, the plastisol transfers were around, but
I didn't know that then.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I was still very ignorant to it, and I actually stumbled onto DTG and transfers by going to Mackinac Island. I went and there was a little gift shop, and they were doing transfers, and they had like a huge room full of blanks and just a wall of designs.
The traditional. Grab the transfer, throw it.
Take number 25. Go pick out what hoodie or shirt you want. I grab one, and I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there taking pictures with my phone of it was a Hicks heat press. I was like, "What the hell is this?" I'm taking pictures of it. I'm like, "This is awesome. This would be so much better for me doing my car shows."
Okay. Now, what year was this?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What?
This is 2001.
Okay.
Ish.
All right.
Oh my God, I really do feel old.
So that's when I got into making my own stuff per se. And then
I was in high school.
Yeah. Okay. So
we're about the same age.
Yeah. At that point, though, I realized after that one event, I still have shirts with the tags on them at home, man.
From this event.
Yes, I still have shirts at home.
And the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it keeps on collecting dust. We keep moving. Every time I move, I got to pick this damn thing up, and it's like, what are we gonna do with all these shirts?
It's like that box of cords and shit that you drag around everywhere.
Exactly. Only they're shirts.
If you're in the
I can't throw them away.
I got boxes of crap like.
You still have boxes of crap. Here you need to get rid of.
Yeah, I do.
You should see my office. It's full of crap too. But yeah, that actually, I was in Mackinac Island, went to the gift shop. I saw how they were doing the transfers, and then I went to NBM, now Graph Expo, in Indianapolis. And I stumbled onto DTG. I saw, everybody knows the infamous flaming guitar picture, okay? And when I first saw that image, I was blown away, because whenever I was designing for screen print, my screen printer could only do 8-12 colors, and I had designs that had 300-400 colors in them, and then I have to go through, it's like, okay, which ones do I want to use? And so I'd have a beautiful banners, beautiful flyers, and then have to dumb down my artwork for the screen printers. Yeah. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I stumbled onto it, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. And this is where I figured the industry was going, and it's just expanding from there.
So what was the printer you saw?
Well, I was looking actually at some of the DTG brand. I was looking at like DTG Viper, oddly enough. And I ended up going with the Neoflex, the OG first Neoflex based off the Epson 4880. Yeah, do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, that's how me and Eric got to know each other. Yep. 2014, I think.
Maybe, something like that.
I ended up buying, was it that same one that you had? I bought, so when I started with the 541, limited to CMYK, I was like, I got to up my game. I need something that prints white. I did like hours upon hours of research on the t-shirt forums. I think we started talking, online, ASL, right? So, but that's how I ended up finding you and getting that connection, and drove out to Indianapolis. Yeah. And I bought the Neoflex.
Yeah, basically bought my shop. I moved to Chicago.
Yeah, I bought a lot. I bought the preacher machine. That's why I got the Viper.
You moved to Chicago and started working for...
Nope, started working for All American.
Yep.
So I was actually traveling around to the trade shows quite a bit, kind of giving the print shop's perspective, because they don't want to hear the salesman's pitch over and over and over again.
One of the biggest beefs I have in general. The salesy pitch.
Well, most of the salespeople would have no production experience. They have no idea. They can read the sell sheet real easy, and they can talk the marketing game all they want. Yeah. But if you've never actually ran production, you have no idea.
You got to be in the trenches. Like a lot of times when a customer calls and they're having an issue, or they're kind of angry, I have to say, hey, I honestly feel your pain. Like, I wasn't in production. I had a shop. The owner of the company, he had a shop. We've been there. We understand your frustrations. We just want to help you figure out how to make things work. And then you can kind of relate. So it gives you a whole other level of understanding.
Well, I think they have more respect for somebody who's actually been in their shoes.
Yeah, and they're not just trying to sell you something.
So that was
that was 2012. So about the time I sold you, because I sold my print shop to you.
Yeah, and it was actually out of your house. So
no, it wasn't.
Yeah, I came to your house.
I had a storefront. So I had already closed the storefront. Yeah, I'd already closed the storefront down. Yeah, that's right. We took it through the window or something. It was weird. We had to do something funky on getting the machine out.
I got it out of your garage.
Oh, was it? Okay. I don't know. It's been too many years. It's been too many years. I've loaded.
But again, this was around 14, because I opened my shop in 12.
Okay.
And I did the 541 for about 2 years. And then around 14, 15 or something, that's when I bought the Neoflex off of you. And that's also when I ended up finally reaching out to Brian, because his name was all over the paperwork and everything. So. And then everything just started kind of meshing together. But you and Brian had known each other.
Oh, yeah. Brian and I had known each other. I mean, because I had a Viper 1, so OG with the Vipers.
With the air.
Yes, the pneumatic one. The pneumatic ones that would...
The doghouse as there's a reason...
Or the midget coffin.
Yeah. The little barn.
There's a reason why we don't make them like that anymore.
But it's significantly better now than they were back then. I don't like any of the enclosed units, honestly.
Well, that's another whole topic that we'll have to discuss later, because that's a huge topic.
Oh, I know.
But there's a whole episode I want to do on that, and Brian knows all about it.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So
you were working for All American,
correct?
And at that time they were selling the Neoflex.
That's correct. And then when Epson came on board, we were one of the first 5 dealers that Epson put on. And then from there, I actually left and went to Belkett. So they had a new machine called the Genesis. That was super cool. It was really a rad printer. It's unfortunate that that they didn't get it to market the way they wanted it to.
It was actually at a show.
We took it to every show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had it every show.
I seen it in person one time, and that thing was awesome.
The first time
anybody needs to do some digging, if you're listening and you want to geek out on DTG stuff, try to find a Belkett Genesis. Anything you can find online. That thing was wild. It had a
Yeah, both parts
rocky,
moved.
and it
The platen and the printer moved. And
Belcan had all kinds of cool stuff. Like they tried to do the pre-treat, like a selected pre-treat area for a while.
it did it all 8-bit. It was really cool. It was almost like a CNC. It would come out and it would just kind of spray kind of the area that you were printing. It was really rad, but it was slow.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem that we've seen now. Back in the day, obviously, was you know, the printers couldn't keep up with the inks.
So it wasn't as big of an issue.
Yeah, and now the machines are so much faster that we're having troubles with keeping up with the ink.
Yep.
You know, we're slowing the machines down because the inks aren't able to kick as fast. But luckily, we have seen the gamut of application get so much easier to do. The colors we can print on now, the fabric types we can print on now. I mean, it was basically you're printing on black or white, and that's it. You know?
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, that makes up half the industry, but still.
Yeah, at least 60%, give or take.
And the guys at Belcut are awesome. I mean, they really are. They are so smart.
They did phenomenal engineering.
Yes.
Almost to a fault.
Yes, that
It
was
was like
that was
over-engineered. Yeah, it was like,
well, they just
this stuff is crazy.
They wouldn't bring it to an end. That was probably when you have engineers running the business, and nothing. I have nothing but positive things to say about Mark and Brett down there. They're geniuses.
They're very
phenomenal. But it was so difficult to say, okay, let's get version 1. Let's get version 1 out, and
run it.
Let's see what exactly.
Reiterate as you go along.
And they've done some great things. I mean, now that's all consolidated into called Desi.
Yep.
So that happened. I left Belcut when my wife got pregnant in 2016, and that's when I moved back to Indianapolis, hoping that friends and family would help us take care of the kid. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Right. So I was like, we better have some help around here because it's just us and the beach.
Tough,
Right. And
change of life.
Oh, no kidding! She's going on 17. She's 6 going on 17.
6 on 17.
It's insane. Who'd have thought, right? Excuse me. But yeah, kind of from there, the next step in my career was Epson actually reached out to me. Their biggest fulfillment house that they worked with was a company called Scalable Press, also known as Little Raymond's. And they had they had quite the fleet of Epson printers, somewhere over 200 machines.
Yeah.
And
that was at one location.
Yeah, and we had 4.
You had 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for anybody that doesn't think that DTG can be used on a mass scale, I mean, 200 printers. How many shirts a day were you putting out?
25,000 shirts shipping to 22,000 different addresses.
Okay. But so that right there tells you...
Try to wrap your mind around
1.05 shirts or whatever per customer, all different, all individual, packed, printed, packed, shipped, pre-treated, printed, packed, shipped, out the door. Almost every day.
Yeah, and during peak, it was even more than that. We're talking 35,000, 40,000 prints during peak. And what was crazy is that we didn't carry any inventory. So we carried 0 inventory. And that's what I love about DTG is it's all on demand. Yeah. So I don't need to sit here and stock 15 colors of shirts. I can get the shirt, especially in the Midwest where we're all at. It's next day from SAMR, SNS, Alpha. It's all next day. So why carry the inventory? Yeah. And I talk to people a lot about what brands of shirts I should be picking anyways, because you don't want to sell the entire catalog. You're not going to be able to do it successfully. And
I mean, honestly, the production doesn't lend itself to the entire catalog.
No.
Like, and that's a lot of our customers call and like, hey, I'm trying to do this weird brand that I never heard of. It's some weird, bizarre color
that's done a weird manufacturing way of garment wash something.
Yeah, and it's like why are you?
My customer wanted.
And they brought the shirt.
Oh yeah.
And they brought the shirt. Which, if you're out there, don't ever let the customer bring the shirt to you. Reason being,
yeah, exactly. I mean,
reason being why?
Because if you fuck it up, now what?
Exactly.
I mean, you have to build out a recipe. So I look at it very much like how restaurants operate. The chef creates the menu. If you don't like what's on the menu, go somewhere else. Yeah. I've never taken my own potatoes to McDonald's and expected them to make my French fries. Why would I? Right. I know it's. Who would have thought? Maybe in California you can do that.
Here.
But to me, it's the same. It's the same mindset with the T-shirts. Why? And people also
a lot of that is stolen though from screen print.
Oh, absolutely.
Because contract screen printing typically
they'll print on anything.
Yeah. When they can though, and that's a different.
But it's you can't. It's not apples and oranges.
No, it's totally different.
And they think they're going to get a better price by doing that.
Yeah.
When in reality, you're not, because if I'm doing the printing and providing the shirts, I'm going to give you a price. If you're providing the shirts, I still have to make that same amount of money.
Yes.
So your printing price is going to go up.
When I had my shop, I honestly would charge people more. Like it would be like 5 cents more or something. But for the hassle of me having to deal with whatever you're bringing me, no, we're charging you for that.
Well, people will go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and they think that they're getting a deal, but they don't understand those are third run shirts.
Yeah,
those are shirts that were made from the trimmings of the other shirts that were made from the. Yeah. I mean, what we get from a distributor at a blank level is first runs. Mm-hmm. Typically speaking, I mean, like your Nikes and those companies from the mill, they're going to get the first runs. Yeah. But the decorators are going to get first runs. Yeah,
it's a good quality. What you're getting
at the craft level,
at the 99-cent shirt level.
It's trash.
Because if they're selling it for $1, they're obviously buying it for a lot cheaper than that to make profit.
And it's a closeout because they couldn't. And that's one of the issues in this industry that I also see. It's production oriented, not demand driven necessarily. We produce. How many shirts? And you might. I've heard this statistic before, and this will blow people's minds, I think, if I actually have it right. How much inventory do the big boys, Hanes, Fruit, these guys have in a generic popular style?
Well, they were hurting really bad for a while there.
But
typically tens of thousands per color per size at their mill.
Yeah, but I'm talking like even bigger numbers. When I had some internal discussions with a few of these big guys, they wanted, this was related to the pre-treated shirts, like the RTP style. Mm-hmm. They needed something that could sit on the shelf for between like 5 and 7 years because they didn't know how long because when they run, they're not just running 10,000 shirts at a clip. They're running
millions,
tens of millions at a clip.
I didn't even know that. I didn't think it makes total sense. I just never thought about it.
Because think about it. Your efficiencies are when you're running the same thing over and over and over.
Absolutely.
And you get in, you boom, 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 boom. You do it, you knock it out. And you might have a year or two inventory.
Yeah.
Obviously on your bigger runs, your common colors, black and white, you're doing that more often because those are the biggest selling items. I mean, typically, at least what we've seen, it's 60% of all sales is between black and white.
Right, and the industry says around 50%, so I'm not surprised that it's 60% for you guys.
But, when you take a look at that and you go, holy mackerel, that is a lot of inventory.
Yeah,
now, there's a shift right now that has been trying to gain traction, and that's more on-demand production of apparel.
We're seeing that on the paper world too.
Okay,
because
explain. Okay, we don't need to connect
the dots here.
So we need to get back to
scalable.
You were scalable press. Wow.
Right. Sorry.
You see how that derails?
It's so easy for us to go down rabbit holes.
This is going to be a 6-hour
Buckle up, baby.
By optic look at.
You should see how we are at the trade shows.
Oh my gosh!
Or afterwards,
At 2 a.m., it's like we
got to go. Especially when we're in Vegas.
All right, back to scalable. So you were scalable, running 25,000 shirts a day.
Mm-hmm. And I was over the entire digital production of the company. So I built out all of the SOPs, changed a bunch of stuff. We changed the brand of shirts we were printing on. Changed a lot of.
Why did you do that? Just out of curiosity.
The print quality wasn't there, so I knew for the same price point I could get us into a better built shirt that would provide us with a better end result, and ideally that would provide us with better customer experience. And Scalable Press, they were a fulfillment house, so we weren't printing anything for our own. Like, you didn't go to Scalable Press and order a shirt. We're printing fulfillment for 300 different web stores. Overflow work for Zazzle, Overflow work for Adidas, stuff like that as well. So I changed a bunch of stuff. When I got there, the reject rate was in the double digits. It was somewhere like 15, 18% of our shirts were being rejected. And when you're doing 25,000 shirts a day, that's a lot of shirts.
And people don't think about that. Why? Okay, first of all, why was that reject rate so high? What were real quick, the root causes and the expenses associated with that? So what were the root causes?
So the root causes were just
to put it
delicately is processes weren't in place yet.
Okay. So they didn't have
it was kind of a free for all. The way that they were running the software, the way that artwork was coming in, it was literally where it was insane to me. The original way it was designed, and I had to have this all changed. Scale Press had 100 software developers on staff. I mean, had 100.
And now, was that for the online ordering?
That was
the whole delivery
the whole company.
So basically, they custom built their own internal.
Yep, our whole
supply chain,
our workflow software. Yep, our own workflow software. So what would happen would be the problem that I found was that the original engineers that built the workflow had never printed. So there was things in place that didn't make sense, and things were not being handled as they should be.
This is logical. We should do this as printing.
It's just a T-shirt, right?
Right, exactly.
It's so easy to print a T-shirt.
Right. And when
how many times have you heard that?
Oh yes. Yeah. And I've actually had those conversations with other staff members. If it's so easy, here's a cart of shirts. Go print them.
Yeah.
Because this is a skilled trade. People act like just load a shirt and hit and print. That's easy. It's understanding.
And you obviously
everything on the back. It's more of a technical. That's one of the big things that we've tried to do, and I think you have also, is people getting into this industry. It's more, like you said, it's easy to push a button. It's design, customer service, the workflow, and all that. So what you ended up doing with all of that helped reduce your scrap rate from, what did you say, double digits down to
3%.
3%. Wow.
When I left, yep.
Okay. So that being said, what was your average cost in a shirt, including labor, pre-treat, all that? I mean, ink and everything.
I can tell you I can't remember exactly. But we were selling shirts for $6 printed.
All right.
Okay. If that puts things in perspective for you. But I was buying ink by the pallet. I was going through a 55-gallon drum of pre-treatment every 8 hours. So I had 16 of the Viper XPT 6000s at just one facility.
Yeah.
But everything was barcode driven. So what was happening was, the shirt, some of the problem that we had, and this was, I had to make some big changes to the way we did the workflow, was because you have people who are friends. Then the way that the way the pay structure was set up for the operators was you hit a certain prints per hour, you get
productivity oriented, but
they had no recourse on the rejects. Okay, so then I changed that. I said you're allowed to hit.
Wait, okay, so let's get that back to why did you have the rejects? What was the main root cause for a lot of that?
The main issue with our rejects was, the blank we were using was not giving us good quality. Okay. We were allowing people to print on anything. I mean, people would come in and they'd want to print on 100% polyester, safety green, and then wonder why it doesn't look good, and it'd get rejected. Printing on cheap hoodies that are really bad 50/50s and would have tons of dye migration. So I had to change.
Limiting your actual...
The catalog.
Medium.
Yep.
Your catalog.
Oh, yeah. Well, I limited the catalog.
SKUs down.
I changed from the traditional platens to the tuck lock platens, which helped tremendously because what was happening, head strikes or the center on the Epsons. So what would happen would be operators. One operator is running 6 machines. So they're constantly moving through their machines. But we'd have, let's just say, one machine got a hoodie, the next print was a T-shirt, the next print was a tank top, whatever the case would be. Well, all of a sudden, they would just, to avoid those height errors and they would slam the platen down as far as it would go.
And then...
mad dot gain.
Yeah.
And it would look like...
blur because of the distance from the print head and everything.
Then it would look like it was an airbrush shirt from 1985.
And there are ways to work that way. But you have to change things to unidirectional as a bidirectional.
Yeah,
when you're in a production mindset, you have to be able to do things as efficiently and quickly as possible.
Well, one way I would be to funnel those to sweatshirts to a pod that just does sweatshirts and stuff like that. But that would be an internal thing.
It was very difficult to be able to do that because of the way we received. So when an order, so at the end of the day, a PO would be sent out to, we were directly connected with Alpha Broder. So a PO would be sent to Alpha Broder.
At the end of the day, so you get it in the morning.
5 a.m. Then a semi truck with 24 pallets of shirts would show up. and a packing slip. We would scan that packing slip into our system, and it would just spit out barcodes for every single shirt that was in that order or whatever's on the truck.
And then how many people do you have sorting that?
15, 20.
Wow.
And that'd be all they would do.
Okay, how many employees did you actually have there? You had 200 and some plus printers.
Had like 85 print operators.
See, that's the thing I don't think a lot of people realize. When you're a small mom and pop, you're in that mindset of small, small, maybe 1-2 printers or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is like Alan said the other day, we aren't necessarily apparel decorators. We are production facilitators. We are in the manufacturing industry, which in reality, when you think about it, even the small scale people, they can take a lot of those lessons on workflow and procedures and, because the biggest thing is, you had your own business. Mm-hmm. We all have here, and a lot of the people watching are in the same boat.
In the business,
Is growing a business. Learning those or set those procedures in place, which frees up what?
Well, labor time, efficiencies, money.
Which, when you're a small operator, when you're a small operator, though, that allows you to get somebody in there to do it because it's going to be done the same every time.
Yeah, training is key,
and then let you focus on building the business.
Sure,
and that presents problems all in and of itself. On a bigger scale.
You have to be very operational minded. It can't be just sales. And I mean, technically I'm the sales director of the segment, at Millcraft.
Okay.
But I am much, I think, operationally. It's very hard for me because of coming from workflow, coming from running the shop. I think like the print shops do. Yeah. And sometimes it's good and bad because I tell them like it is. And sometimes they don't want to hear what I'm telling them.
It's like, no, you don't want to do it that way. Right. But this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah, and that's wrong.
Well,
what do you mean I'm wrong?
Do you want to do it better?
Right.
I tell people all the time, right? Because someone's asked me, why should I buy? Well, we manufacture pre-treatment machines. Why should I buy one of your pre-treatment machines? Well, I honestly believe if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But there's always the opportunity to make it better. You need to at least explore to see if doing it a different way is going to improve things.
I can't wrap my head around somebody spending $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a machine and then using a butter knife as their screwdriver. I just cannot. Using a pre-treatment machine through a paint gun. I just cannot. I can't rationalize that.
Now, getting back to sort of that in scalable press. Mm-hmm. How big of an issue was the pre-treating process for you guys? I mean, maintaining the control. Because you said you were talking about productivity.
Right.
And having no recourse. So what problems did that present for you on a manufacturing side?
In the beginning, when I started there, it was a lot of our issues related back to the pre-treatment station. And the problem that occurred, so when we originally had the shop set up, we had kind of like a pre-treatment department. We had kind of our printer department, kind of a QC area and shipping, receiving. Well, what was happening was if there was an issue that affected first shift, because we were running 3 shifts 6 days a week. So if first shift would pre-treat, because they could pre-treat way faster than we could print. Yeah. So there'd be 10,000, 15,000 shirts waiting for second shift to come in. And if they were pre-treated wrong during first shift, it's this. It's their fault. It's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault. So I then changed the way we structured the entire processes to basically create a pod system, which basically everybody is doing now. Created a pod system so that what was getting pre-treated was getting printed within just a couple of minutes. So if there was an issue,
you could remedy it and still get the product out that day.
Exactly. So we caught, and then one of the other issues that Scalable Press that I changed was all of the artwork, when it came into the system, would get processed and ripped starting at the top collar. And then when the operator would scan the barcode, it would pop up onto the screen and tell them, you need to move the shirt 3 inches.
No.
So they would literally be using their fingers, like, okay, that's 4 inches, 3 inches, 2. I'm like, this is insane.
Which is fine.
But your 4 fingers is different than my 4 fingers, different than his.
You have the small little woman that's like 80 pounds sopping wet trying to figure it out.
Yeah, most of my operators were female. I mean, that's a fact.
What I'm saying it's fine. Like, for most people that are listening right now are not going to be in a pod of 200 printers. Like, doing 3 fingers is fine, but if we're talking about efficiencies and making things proper to where you can put anybody in that position to press a button. you need to eliminate as many like hands-on steps.
All the variables.
So what did you guys do to resolve that?
I standardized the way we load shirts. I teach the same way that I teach now. I taught then. I can do the entire process. I can take a shirt from a box, pre-treat it, press it, print it, press it, completely blindfolded. It's all tactile. Your eyes will trick you. It's just like one of those things where
is that straight?
Right. Is that straight? Is the tag in the middle? Is the pocket crooked or not?
Did you have a hangover? Yeah, that looks straight.
Last night, you're judging your last night based on how your print quality turns out.
But to be honest with you, though, that happens a lot, especially when you are an owner and have employees. If you don't have those in place, and the employees don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can simplify it and make it to where it's just a repeat. And I tell people when we're training them, because when you buy a printer from Millcraft, you're not buying a printer, you're buying a solution. And I hate to sound cliche like that, but we come on site, we teach you not how to use the printer, the nuances of the industry. Why do we not want to print on this particular brand or color of shirt? Like charcoal gray, how difficult those are to print, or the neons and stuff. And when we have to explain that to people, why, and
the industry is actively taking steps to make those things easier. Like, we came out with platinum because of people having issues with certain colors and stuff. So the industry eventually catches up. But at the time, it's a constant chase.
Well, we have to educate them so that they know what they're looking at, so that when there is a change or there is a new shirt or there is a new style, they know how to tack it and understand what they're looking at.
Exactly.
More than call me and say, hey, a customer brought me this baby blue shirt and it's staining.
Yeah,
I mean, I give a list
that's because you got it at Mark's. There's nothing wrong with Mark's. Great for deals if you're just doing stuff. Just don't buy your shirts that you're going to give to a customer from those places. I mean, you could.
Buy them as testers.
But I don't even like doing that, because now we're testing on a product that we're not selling. Because now if I build my recipe and my process is out for that brand of shirt or that type or color or weight or whatever, and I'm not going to sell it, right? Who knows what's going to be available? Right.
Everything else.
So I mean, black, white, athletic color, gray, royal blue, and navy blue. Those 5 colors, I'll sell all their colors combined. You add red, green, yellow, whatever typically is going to be a demographical, geographical, school related. We're going to sell a lot more Kelly green in Lansing, Michigan than we are in Columbus, Ohio. So it's one of those things. But typically speaking, I mean, that's industry. That's not me. That's Fruit of the Loom. That's you guys. That's Hanes. Everybody's pretty well in that same boat on those colors. So we have to be able to build out a process that is, I can use those colors because I know those are my primary. And then I tell people all the time, like, if you want to sell a lime green shirt, you need to bring in 5 or 6 lime green shirts, do your testing, washing, and make sure that they're good to go. I know.
No.
And then
that's
they call.
Too much work for me.
No, not that.
You can't tell me the exact setting to use for that shirt.
Wow, that's.
You should know that. I get that a lot too. You're so experienced. You should be able to tell me that it's exactly a setting of 23 on the Viper Max. No, I can't tell you that. Humidity, barometric pressure, shop.
Again, that goes clear back to that. What works in my shop may not work in your shop.
Exactly.
Just because all those different variables.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing. People are like, there's a lot of standards, but those standards will deviate.
Have some flexibility.
There's a plus minus factor to it. And, it can come down to, you might have, my heat press. We could have, quote, the same pressure, but from 2 different manufacturers. That pressure could be a different setting.
Absolutely.
And the heating platens could be off by 10 or 15 degrees.
Minimum.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where
there's so many variables.
Yes. And I understand that is incredibly frustrating for people. It's frustrating for manufacturers.
Well, everybody.
The printers themselves, and the end customer, because the end customer only cares about getting a good product.
Sure.
Really.
And all the printers will print a good product.
Absolutely.
So there. Speaking to this point, there is a weird catch-22 scenario going on here, right? DTG is pitched as an easier alternative than screen printing, essentially, right? It's a way to produce
on
t-shirts.
Demand.
It's an on-demand type of thing.
On demand solution.
Solution. Yeah.
So but it's supposedly easier, right? Less
cleaner.
Easier.
More green.
In quotes. But it's. So when
it's still technical, like screen.
It
printing,
is
just on a different level.
It's a trade.
But when there's that connotation that it's easier, people expect it to be
Push button
easier.
and go.
Push button and go. But it's taking the time to do all of the steps, and there's still a process.
Well,
it's not just you pull a shirt out of a box, you pre-treat it, throw it on the machine, press print. It can be that simple.
It is, yeah. Once you build it out,
once you figure out all of your testing and knowing how to, check this off. Okay, it's this color. I need this much. Like, there is still a bunch of testing that needs to take place. Like, I talk to people all the time. I just got my machine. Can't wait to print. Put the first shirt on, and they are ready to cry because their first print looks like crap.
Yeah.
But it's like, what testing did you do? How did you experiment? Do you like? There's all a process.
Well, I've seen that a lot when we do like trade shows where. I've had customers, because before I went to Millcraft, I was an independent consultant. So I would work with print shops that were trying to make that leap into digital, or had bought digital and didn't know how to implement it into their workflow. And get a big screen printing shop or a big embroidery shop. They know all that, but how do we set the machines up? How do we run the dryer? How do we pay people? What's the process here? And people would go to a trade show, and you and I and Brian, we can jump on a machine and we can print a show quality print in a matter of seconds.
But again, you have 20 years.
Right.
You have
too many.
Right.
We aren't going.
but people are sold
Years and
that,
years.
okay? Then when they buy a machine from somebody, doesn't matter who per se, right? They buy a machine, they get the machine, they're trained on how to clean it, they're trained on how to load it, they're trained on how to push the button, but they're not trained on how to produce those quality of shirts.
The nuances.
And then they think they've been sold a bill of goods.
Yeah.
And I come in, and 10 minutes after I'm there, we're printing show quality prints.
And they're like, what?
Yeah, how'd you do that? And it's like, because I know the equipment. You haven't taken the time to become a journeyman, so to speak, in this field. It is, while it can be push button easy, you've still got to earn your stripes. It takes time. And I think that by us coming on site, lots of testing.
Lots of testing.
How many screen printing shops do you go to that have a washer and a dryer on site? Almost all of them.
Yeah.
How many DTG shops do? Very few.
Now,
We have one here for
Of course.
testing.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, I've failed, I know what not to do.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's more often not than anything. And I think that's sort of a good life lesson in general in business, is if you have that experience of failure, there's typically a pain point associated with that.
Yeah.
You learn what not to do. It's like anything, Pavlov's dog or a kid. If I do that, I'm going to get spanked. If I do this, I'm going to get a cookie. If I'm good, reward. If I do something bad, and that is, but a lot of people in DTG, like you've said, they've been sold a bill of goods.
They feel.
They feel.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that can be intentional or not intentional.
Sure.
Because a lot of time, again, it goes back to the education of the whole process. Mm-hmm. People get machines and they're like, I forget which company it was that we did this with, but they included the RTP in with their printers. They would always print the shirt on site on an RTP. Then a week later, when the customer calls up and says, hey, it's printing like crap. This printer sucks and da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Put an RTP back on, print it. Oh, looks great. Okay.
It's
It's
your
not
pre-treat.
the printer.
It's
It's
right.
not
process.
the printer.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the whole thing. But I guess if you can take from those and learn, which is what you've done throughout your entire career, I think everybody does through life, but in this industry, take and build on that. And that allows you to jump in and print, like you said, those show quality shirts.
Yeah.
And hopefully help new people get started.
Yeah, we
on
try
the
to
right foot.
try to shorten that learning curve some.
Significantly.
That's the whole point of us sitting here talking.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully, you're learning something to where you can get a little step up because you learn a lot quicker because you're doing the due diligence of educating
Well,
yourself.
we're all still learning too. I mean, this industry is still so new. I mean, in the scheme of things, we're really only second generation of OEM machinery.
Really?
Yeah, third maybe.
third.
I mean,
I would go.
Do you consider,
I would go
like-
maybe third generation, but I still, like I said in that other interview with Alan, we're just
baby.
toddlers.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
toddlers.
Absolutely.
We aren't infancy, and we'll get to that in some of our other topics down the road. But again, bunny trailing back to with where you were at there after Little Raymond's
Scalable.
and Scalable. What
You
happened?
were consulting.
Did you disappear? You had a kid.
Yep. So that's what moved me back to Indianapolis. So essentially, the operational processes at Little Raymond / Scalable were so inefficient that they needed some serious help. So that's when I came on board to help bring all of them up to a feasible reject rate. I mean, in 3% reject rate on something that you're not doing any pre-test. I mean, when you're embroidering or you're doing screen printing, you're doing test prints.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to do a test stitch out. You don't get that luxury when you're doing on demand.
Not when you print. You have a goal of shipping one item. You're not printing two to test it to do that.
Right. I can't do that.
Economically, you can't.
Right. If I have an order of 50 shirts, I might throw one on that's just to test it. But otherwise, it's as it comes. You're printing them as they come through. So we had to make sure that our processes were put in place that would actually allow that to be efficient. So that's why we changed the shirts, because I knew that a better shirt would give us less reject rates. I changed the platens we were using to try to reduce that, because a lot of times with the hoops, as we all know, that hoop, if we drop it on the ground, especially in a big production shop, you drop it on the ground, it gets tweaked a little bit. Next thing you know, it's not holding the shirts down taut anymore.
Whacking print head,
hitting prick heads. Exactly. So I did that. We created a whole maintenance department and everything so that we were self-sufficient by Epson. So Epson certified technician, Brother certified technician, Rico certified technician. So going through all of those things to be able to keep everything in-house helped tremendously also with our rejects going way down. And from there, I was actually approached by a company I was at, SGIA, Printing United, ISS, I can't remember one of them. And, you know, I get approached quite often at shows for good, better, or worse. People recognize me from YouTube and just from Facebook and everything else. So,
local celebrity over here.
All right, hey, that's right. That's why I got my cup of coffee here.
We spiked that.
No doubt, right?
All the truth comes out.
But yeah, I was approached by a company called Ink Locker, which was a decentralized fulfillment house. So think Uber, only for DTG. So it was really cool. We didn't actually own any technology. We owned software that we would then distribute to different print shops. I actually vetted the print shops, made sure that they were up to our par.
I did as well for a little bit there too.
The basic SOPs that they needed to operate on.
Yeah, and it was a really cool project.
Trying to bring new shops in.
Yeah, we had 150 print shops globally. So it was really cool when an order would come through for Des Moines, Iowa. We had a print shop in Des Moines. They would get first right of refusal. They'd get it. And it was a really cool project. Unfortunately, being a startup, a lot of startups can't make it, and they didn't. It was a great learning experience, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, they were almost kind of first to market in that type of mindset. Now there are others out there.
There's a bunch of others, and that's the thing. It's that learning curve.
Well, it's always typically the second. It's the first ones that break the mold, and the second company comes along is the one that is successful.
Don't look at me. That's what I'm saying. I am complaining all the time. It's like, son of a biscuit. It's like the pre-treated shirts. How many are out there?
A handful now.
There's another one.
There's a handful.
And another one, and another one, and another one. It's like,
but you knew that it was inevitable. It's just, you're an early adopter. I've always said this. Brian's been an early adopter.
Not an adopter.
Well, not adopter. Adopter's the wrong one.
Yeah, innovator.
An early innovator.
And that's frustrating because it's like, it works, it's good. It's like, why doesn't? But again, I think it is that adoption phase, and the phase that DTG and everything's going through. There's a lag between what comes out. I mean, look, direct-to-garment T-Jet.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal. I mean,
shout out to Scott
technology. Awesome technology. Too early. We had 2 ink sets, Roman Haas, DuPont. Nobody understood pre-treating.
No.
Yeah. When Brother came out with their machine years after that, they were still recommending foam rollers, basically to pre-treat the shirt. Because all that stuff is sort of an afterthought. And everybody was focused on the printing side and not everything else that went with it. And that's what this industry had to grow up. What you did at Scalable Press, they didn't understand the entire bigger picture necessarily. They had a vision, okay, this is what we're doing, and they just started throwing crap out there, and some of it stuck in place until you came in and said, we can't do this, that, and that. And I think that's the biggest thing in business in general. To stay alive, be alive long term is you have to be adaptable, like what you did and came in and look at stuff with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
And step back and go, and even I have to do this daily, and it's hard as a business owner and somebody that likes to innovate and you see the bigger picture, is to step back and go, damn, maybe I am wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What did we do wrong in this?
Oh yeah,
but that's how you stay alive.
It's okay. Now
it's like a stab.
Well,
it's painful.
Now
but
this is fun.
Competition breeds innovation.
But competition does breed. That's why you see. I can name probably 4 or 5 different pre-treated ready to print shirts now. Now this is sort of off topic since I brought that up. Not the pre-treated shirts, but for people that are maybe getting started in business, what is the biggest mistake that you would say you did in general that maybe hindered you and held you back a little bit? And how did you rectify it?
My biggest issue was, not paying attention during training. I was with the owner of the company drinking beer.
That might be a problem. Why do we have 20 extra screws?
Yeah.
There's always extra.
I think the biggest issue that I had was trying to offer the entire catalog, trying to fulfill everybody's wants and needs.
Spreading yourself.
And then when I started looking at it more and more of how high end, super nice, steakhouses, they have like 6 things, okay, and they do those 6 things better than anybody else in the city.
Well.
So if they can do that, why shouldn't we? I don't want to be Timex, I want to be Rolex.
Yep.
I don't want to be Ponderosa, I want to be Ruth's Chris.
You don't want to be a Casio?
Right, but there's shops out there that need to be. I mean, that's Little Raymond's was Casio.
Yeah.
Because they were running to the bottom as fast as they could to capture market share. And that you have to have that to be able to offset the people who are charging $45, $50 for a streetwear brand of the same shirt.
But you have to understand that's 2 different customers.
Absolutely.
It's
2 different business models.
But the funny thing is, a lot of times it can be the same exact product.
It is the same product.
And what's the difference? What is the difference between those 2 products?
Well, for me, what the
branding.
I look
honestly.
Yes and no.
What's the difference between Coach and Louis Vuitton?
Well, I understand that aspect.
Or like Ford and Ferrari. Like,
are you like a purse connoisseur?
That's what we have to buy the wives. That's about the only thing I can buy.
They both make satchels. I mean, it's called a satchel. It's a male purse. A merce.
A merce.
No, but you get what I'm saying. It's like there is a level of branding that is to it as well. But then it does come down to quality. Like ultimately, I think. But then there's like a point of no return. Like, how can you take perfect quality and make perfect quality cost $5,000 as opposed to $500?
Okay. Well, there's that. You're going to the extreme though. But for me, what I saw, this goes back to the ink locker model. Okay, instead of having one building with 300 printers in it, it makes sense to have 300 buildings with one printer in it, because the people who are purchasing that equipment are the owner operators. They give a shit about print.
They do.
They're not there to collect a paycheck. They care.
That goes back to the video that we saw online about the DTF versus DTG, which we're going to get into a little bit later in this conversation. It'll probably be in episode part 2 of
3, probably.
Or 3, because God only knows how long it'll take me to edit this. No, but the interesting
we got lunch coming soon.
The interesting thing with that was that the DTG prints that they were comparing, I mean, I wouldn't even consider showing anybody those prints because it wasn't even on par of being a good quality DTG print.
So they were skewing things on purpose.
It was either that or they were ignorant. And I don't know, I'm not going to go say either way, but it was interesting because you have to compare apples to apples. But again, it goes back to what is that difference between what makes a shirt $45 versus, say, even 10 or 12.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also the buyer. That's the key, is who's buying the shirt. Who's your target audience? Because you have to cater your business. That's right. You got if I am focusing on doing landscaping companies and stuff like that, they don't care about ring spun enzyme wash 4.5 ounce high end. They don't care. They want a Fruit of the Loom.
That has their logo.
They
on
want
it,
a basic
and
shirt, right, for $5,
keeps
$6,
the dirt
whatever.
off their nipples.
Yeah, and that's all they care about. Same thing with like when I tell people about family reunions and stuff. Those shirts that are dated, they're good for the one day.
Yeah,
they're after that
immediately
they're mowing grass shirts.
Yeah.
You know, so why spend all that effort and time into now? At my print shop, I was a high end shop. I didn't print on anything that wasn't ring spun. I only printed on one brand of shirts. But back then there wasn't nearly the option. I'm a big Cotton Heritage person. No offense to RTP, I love RTP, but for those items that are not, it's a phenomenal.
We were honestly talking about them earlier today.
Yeah, they're great. And at Printing United, at ISS. Went in there, talked to the guys at the booth, and they're great. I mean, and I highly recommend those shirts to people to get the most out of their printer. It's amazing. I'll show people during training.
But to your point, you take that beautiful shirt, right? Mm-hmm. You pre-treat it wrong or poorly, you're going to get poor print results.
Absolutely. Or wash results.
Yeah. So you have to, they all piggyback off of each other.
Which is why I like the Max. Okay. And same reason why I like CADLink. I know we're getting into product placement here a little bit, and I apologize. But one of the main reasons why I use CADLink is because of the wizards that are built into it to allow me to dial in a shirt for a specific amount of ink. So if I have a rose-colored Bella Canvas, 3.5 ounce, Razorback t-shirt tank, they're such a pain in the butt to try to dial in. And with the Viper Max being able to spray different amounts of pre-treatment on the step test and then being able to do the exact same, basically a step test through the RIP software, I'm able to create that perfect combination and save that as a default.
We were talking about that, the optimal white. Without overkill, but finding that optimal.
I only need 70% instead of 90%. Save that as the rose-colored shirts, and now every single time I bring it in.
You're building your own matrix.
Yes.
Because that's what's going to work for you in your location, in your operation.
And it gives me a ballpark to get people to start from, too.
It does. The ballpark
start
is
here,
nice.
And then you can kind of adjust based on your shop.
To make your point, driving back to what you said earlier, it's all about efficiencies. You're doing all of these things to make yourself as efficient as possible. With the max efficiency, that's when your profits start to, you really get a bigger return.
A lot of people on the Max, they think it's slow, but it's not.
Slow is comparative to how quickly you can print too, or cure.
Well,
I mean, there's so many variables.
Process.
Right. I mean, if once in theory, how I set print shops up is in a secular workflow. In most cases, we're working in a circle. Yep. Shirts come in from the warehouse, they get to stage 1, pre-treat, press, print, cure, and back out they go. Yeah. Now, sometimes you do it in like a lean manufacturing facility where it's kind of going down a production line, but I still want to run it in a workflow where it's going through each 4 processes in a very quick manner, so we can catch those issues as they happen instead of right. Because if it's done. I tell people all the time that the printers don't print t-shirts; they print $20 bills. Every 90 seconds, a $20 bill is coming off that printer. And if you are guessing,
might be fake,
right? But if you're guessing on the settings to use, and you're wishing and hoping and not done your R&D, you're burning $20 bills every 90 seconds. Because if you screw one up, it's not the $3 in the shirt that you lost. It's the bringing it back in. It's the labor. It's the pre-treatment. It's the electricity. The ink, the time. Yeah. You've lost money on that job now because you didn't for not taking the extra 30 seconds just to square yourself up with the machine, just to make sure that you have your pre-treatment where you're supposed to be. I mean, I do this all the time where... And it happens. I mean, that's why I would tell my print production people, I'm going to give you 3% because for a failure rate before I start dinging you. Because I can't tell you when the printer could screw up. Middle of printing, the print up, right? Hole in the shirt. I loaded it the front instead of the back.
Yeah. Somebody forgot to fill the pre-treat line.
Yeah.
And it just...
Yeah, you get banding in it.
Too heavy the night before, went on a little crooked.
Print the wrong image on the wrong shirt. Things happen, and you have to expect that and prepare for it.
It's not perfect.
No.
If you're expecting perfection,
good luck with anything.
Yeah. What's perfect?
There's nothing. But yes, I mean it's been a good run so far, and I really like being able to show people. Like I went to a print shop, I don't know, sometime last year in 2022. And they were complaining about their production efficiency. They're like, man, we're only able to get like six shirts an hour out of this printer.
Wow.
And I was like, what? So I went to their shop. Well, they had their dryer 200 yards away. So they were walking with wet shirts to the dryer, setting them onto the dryer, walking
Nothing ever happens when you're doing that.
Right. And I was like, what are you doing? You need to move your dryer over here, move your printers over towards your dryer because you're spending so much. I mean, I was timing it.
They were spending steps in.
Yeah, well, no doubt.
Exercise.
Yeah,
Positive side of that coin.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was a couple of minutes per shirt they were wasting just in the walking. I said, we got to change the whole way your shop is set up.
It honestly can be as simple as something like that.
Well, they don't know.
You don't.
They
know
buy
if
a
you
machine
don't know, right?
exactly. If they buy a printer, they're not trained on it. They don't have anybody who has production experience, and they're winging it.
Yeah.
And if we've all done that, and then we figure out, and especially
There's a better way to more efficient way to do it. Yeah. Now you are currently with Millcraft.
Correct.
People are going to go,
who's Millcraft?
What Millcraft is Millcraft?
Well, I knew Millcraft. When you told me you were going to Millcraft, I go, oh, the paper company.
Yeah.
Because I come from the print industry, designing and stuff, and we had Millcraft paper.
Okay. Now, Millcraft would be, I mean, they have a wide reach, but I would call it more regional.
Yeah, Ohio Valley.
But I mean, cover everything from Cleveland to Nashville.
Yep.
Is it clear out to
Chicago. Springfield.
Okay, so it would be more Midwest.
Yeah, Midwest.
So somebody in California going Millcraft. Okay.
No, I mean, but
what is Millcraft?
So Millcraft is a paper merchant. That's their main core business. Millcraft is a family-owned business. Was started in 1920. So we are a 103-year-old company. It is
third generation.
Fourth generation. Fourth generation.
Okay, now for people statistically, I don't know what fourth generation is. First generation, if it goes to the second generation, the failure rate is typically 50%.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow.
Third generation, it's 90% failure rate.
Wow.
So to make it to the fourth generation, I haven't seen statistics on that. That is incredible. So good job, Travis.
Yeah, Travis has done it. He's awesome. He is phenomenal. He's very forward thinking as well.
Yeah, you know what I think helps with a lot of that? He's all that, but he had great people to learn from.
Oh, yeah.
The family members to learn from on that, because again, it's like standing on the shoulders of the people before you and going instead of having to learn from scratch.
Well, and they forced him out of the business. So before Travis was allowed to take over Millcraft, the family said, you aren't getting this. You go do your own business first. You go learn how to run a company. You go work for somebody else. Because he grew up in the back of the Cleveland warehouse, driving a forklift, loading trucks and stuff like that. And it was not one of these things where you're just going to assume the role of the CEO. It's not going to work like that.
That's smart. You got to cut your teeth. That's how you learn.
So
you got to go to the school of hard knocks.
Yeah, and he did. And I mean, he was actually, it's pretty amazing. He back in like the early 2000s, late 90s, he started a .com that was like it was like a golf digest. It was a golfing publication, and he was the very first online publication to receive a print publication award from the periodicals.
Oh wow.
Whatever
even though it was all digital,
because it was the first digital magazine to be given that award.
That's really cool.
And he lived out in San Diego at the time, and then I don't know. There's a big gap there that I don't know about. And then he came in to take over.
Rumspringa. We don't talk about Rumspringa. That's the gap year.
Wow. Yeah, I'm like most people are gonna go,
huh? Look it up.
He's showing his Amish side.
Yeah.
It's not Polish.
No, I am Polish.
I know.
We're skating around the Amish communities here at our.
That's very true. I drove through 4 of them getting here.
Yeah. Avoiding the buggies.
Yeah.
So he came back and then sort of jumped into just doing whatever and
diversified. So he saw that paper is not the end all be all. We continue to see paper decline. But we also forget that everything is printed. Everything is printed. There's paper, there's labels, there's stickers, the sublimation. There's everywhere there's something.
It's a stack of books right there.
Yeah.
I mean, books are, even though there's digital is definitely encroaching, but yeah, paper is everywhere.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
And he realized, and this was about, I want to say probably 10 years ago, I think is when he took the company over, and he's 10X the company. in that amount of time.
Impressive.
So he's the sharpest guy I've ever worked with. He's unbelievably smart, great mentor, and he's all in. I mean, he stumbled onto this technology at Printing United. He just happened to see, he was walking the show. Was over at the commercial print side of things where Xerox, Iconic, Minolta, and all those guys are, and was like, hey, I'm gonna go walk over at the apparel world real quick, and then saw DTG.
And what?
I was like, whoa, what is this?
There you go.
And
that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Happened to you. Happened to you. Like, DTG is, if you want to get into it, the first time that you see one and see it actually operating, and then the end product,
then it goes.
This
up here starts running like
the wow
it's
factor.
Almost like you get your first shot. It's like then you got to chase the dragon.
Well, I've done. Jesus.
Alrighty there.
I care about.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, right. Can you see HR?
Right,
yeah. Wow. Well, one of the things that I've, I commend Travis for is being able to see the future and know that, look, this is where it's going.
Yes.
That's the
part that
Millcraft is, we're in the packaging business. We're in the craft beverage, so like aluminum cans. So for even like small little breweries all the way up to good sized regional breweries like Sun King. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys.
Oh yeah.
So we work with a lot of those guys, and we actually have our own mobile canning line. So some of the smaller breweries, they can't afford to do their own canning. So we come on site with our machinery, we can it, we label it, we do everything we have.
Now
it's really cool.
Here's an interesting thing. You said label. Are you printing on the cans or a label that goes?
We can
like
do both.
wrap?
Well, nobody prints on the cans typically. They are a sleeve, like a heat shrink sleeve.
Okay, it's a heat shrink sleeve.
So we can do both. We have the heat shrink sleeve, or we also have where it's literally just a paper label.
Now I have a question because I'm ignorant on this side of things. It's a sleeve. Now, or is it like a flat pressed and you print both sides, or how
it's
is
like a
that?
tube.
Okay, it's a tube. So it's tubular printed and then put over the can.
Exactly.
And heat shrunk on.
Shrunk onto it, and then
it's like those things that you put on eggs. Remember when you're like doing Easter?
Now, is it like an adhesive type thing to stick to the can on the inside as it's heated?
I'm not exactly sure on that aspect. Obviously, with the labels, it is, and it probably is because when the can is getting filled, it overflows.
Yeah.
And then, I had no idea how it all worked until I saw it in operation. But the actual part that you flip open the drink out of, that is its own separate cap. It goes over top of it, and it spins.
The ring part.
And it crimps it.
Yeah.
And then we label and sleeve after that part. And it goes through a whole wash and everything. And actually, the inside of the cans are coated also.
So you don't taste like aluminum?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the Pepsi cans did back in the day.
Well, aluminum's good for the body.
I had no idea how all this stuff worked too, but it was really cool. I bet we have, and just the Indianapolis warehouse alone, we probably have tens of thousands of cans. I go out there and there's just floor to ceiling, pallets and pallets and pallets and pallets of cans. And it's really cool. In May, we're doing a big, the largest microbrew trade show. We're doing it down in Nashville.
That's cool.
In Cincinnati. It's in Nashville, I think.
Nashville.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried to let me steal a corner of the booth for a DTG printer because in my mind it makes perfect sense for the breweries to sell merch.
Yeah.
They
absolutely.
And now that we're down in Nashville, all of the bars there's so much merch down there. It just makes total sense. So.
One of my biggest customers when I had my business was a local brewery that actually does a lot of canning too for others local breweries. But merch was such a big income driver for them.
Yeah.
Well, you think about it. You have your brand of brew. You want to get that out. So instead of paying somebody to print the shirts for you, if you can do it on demand, and you have that ability to actually sell it or wanted to give it away. Thing. It's one of those
with limited inventory. You don't have to worry about all that crap.
Yeah, you have a website with 300 designs all on one black shirt.
Yep.
And that's what I like to tell people is focus on the on demand. Yeah, only offer 5 or 6 colors, sizes, brand. That's it, and master those. And then if somebody wants something outside of that, then do your R&D
Figure out if it's
Figure it
worth
out.
to
Right,
do.
right.
Yeah.
You go, is this a one-time job? Then I'm not. I love those customers that if you give me a deal today, I promise you're going to get all my work. I'm going to be the next Ralph Lauren.
What's your name? What's the Popeye? The guy that always said,
Oh, the
I'll
hamburger
pay you,
guy?
Give me
Tuesday.
a hamburger today.
Yeah. It was
I'll
for
pay you
Popeye.
on next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was.
It's amazing how that operates. And people expect us or the print shops to
fall for it.
and we're not.
To
Yeah,
fall
I mean,
for it.
you can't.
You do, but
You can't.
You will get eaten alive.
If you capture a customer by your pricing, I should say, you will
don't
lose that customer by pricing as well.
You will, and then it'll be
Yep.
5 cents, and they're gone. There's no loyalty there.
Yep.
Biggest
and
thing.
they'll do the exact same thing to the person they last used.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next guy, I save 5 cents more.
I've always said I
Waste of
would
time.
rather have fewer customers that are good and you treat them correct, because you could have all the business in the world, but if you aren't making any money,
So for
what the
not,
heck are you in business for?
Yeah.
it's a lot of labor for no
It's
return.
a lot of labor for not doing
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think that's one thing that makes Millcraft strong is, I mean, our tenure of our employees, I think the average tenure is probably over 20 years, 30 years with the company. I mean, most of these,
They're doing something right.
a lot of our salespeople have known Travis his whole life. You know,
Growing up through the company.
you know, so it's really cool to watch. And now I'm the mix now is I'm throwing all this apparel decorating stuff at these guys, and they don't know.
Yeah.
You know, they're paper people. I don't know. I can't talk their language at all. I have no idea what
They
they're talking
probably
about.
didn't understand cans and canning either,
No.
or whatever else you got into.
The
Jars,
packaging and
containers,
all that stuff.
But it's being smart enough to know, okay, this segment of my industry might kind of be reshaping, dwindling, or getting smaller. So I have to kind of change focus and realize where can we make growth.
Well, we want to try to
adapt.
steer the customers also, and I don't mean to sound me, but Millcraft has to recognize, okay, Millcraft needs to diversify. Because
Yeah.
we know that people, but what can we diversify into that's going to be beneficial for our customers to diversify into also?
Yep.
So it's concentrical diversification.
Yep.
They're already in print. We're just adding another spoke to the wheel of apparel decorating. Let me come in. Let me teach you how to add this to your business.
Paper,
Right.
decorating a shirt,
Now
you're
the-
decorating a can,
can,
you're
Whatever. The hard part though is when you have a lot of these seasoned paper printers.
old school.
Yeah, or even old school screen printers, they forget about what it took to learn it. They forget that offset press that they got from Heidelberg 30 years ago, they weren't printing on it 30 minutes after it was dropped off.
Yeah.
It took them a while to learn how to make the plates. It took them,
You forget about all that.
You
stuff,
do.
though, yeah.
And then
you get so locked into your routine and your groove
Yep.
that you just think it's second nature, and then there's
and
that
it's second nature for us.
frustration
And then when we do demos and stuff like that, we show it off. We're at a trade show or we're doing a live demo or
Boop, 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 boop,
right.
boop. It's that easy.
And
Push
it's
a
that
button,
easy.
i.e. back to push a button. Here
Right.
you go.
It's hard. It's hard to not be complacent about that because of doing it. It is second nature to us.
Yeah.
So I have to take a step back a lot of times doing training. But I honestly, this is what's crazy when I'm doing training because you can't buy a machine from me without getting training. I refuse to sell a printer just to sell a printer.
You're solving a problem if you do that.
Right. I'm not interested in selling boxes. I'm interested in selling solutions. And that's a big difference. I mean, you can go buy a printer from anybody and they'll drop ship it to you. Here you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for your money. Have a nice day. That's not I don't care about selling machines. I need to sell machines. Don't get me wrong, but I want to create a long-term customer, right? Where I get all that downstream. Same thing with the print shop. I need them to be successful because if they're successful, I'm successful. And that's what, if they're not, I take that as a failure on our behalf because we didn't help them get to that next level in their company in a lot of ways. But we work very, very hard to make sure that doesn't happen by going the extra mile. I don't think there's any company out there other than Millcraft that does what we do when it comes to our customers. I've never seen anything like it in our industry. We are not, it's the good thing here, and we're kind of getting into another rabbit hole, but Millcraft is not going to die tomorrow if DTG isn't successful for them.
Right. Because of the spokes on what it does. But your customer base, though, I think is a lot different also than most of the DTG resellers or machine rep type people. They are doing commercial grade offset printing, high-end production stuff. So it's a whole different customer base too.
It is.
Which they expect a whole lot of different. The general person that has a 9-to-5 job, goes to a show, sees this and buys a printer, doesn't have that level of experience on maybe what needs to be done and what should be expected. They're up here, and there's nothing wrong with the 9-to-5 getting into DTG. It's just your customer base is a lot different because of what they deal with. Like you said, the Heidelberg presses, the digital presses, all that stuff that they're dealing with now.
They're adding this as another revenue.
Right. We're just trying
another service.
Exactly. We're trying to add to their service options. Exactly right. And one of the big differences between like us and a lot of the other people that sell the equipment is, typically speaking, we're doing the educating.
Yeah.
Okay. In a lot of cases, the customers that are going to the other dealers and manufacturers already know what they're getting into. They're already an embroidery shop. They're already whatever, and they know what they're getting into. Or they're an Etsy shop and they want to do something part-time or whatever. We're going after enterprise type of customers that are already our customer. We've already got the 20 years relationship with them. Put their trust in us to help them diversify into the space.
So with all of your history and your knowledge, being a sole shop, you had your own business, working with large production shops, and now working kind of in the enterprise space. Most of our listeners here on the Daily DTG are going to be smaller or enterprise or forward thinkers that want to aspire for growth. What like 2 cents can you give them based on your knowledge outside of what you already said with, fix your efficiencies, figure out your processes, like what can they take away?
Well, I think that the biggest thing is, everything that I talk about, even though I'm talking about it on a grand scale, is 100% scalable down just as much as it's scalable up.
There you go.
So if you can take those same principles and processes that I used to produce millions and millions, I've got about 15, 20 million DTG prints under my belt. That's quite a few.
That's a lot of shirts, man.
It is. So if I can take all of those things and those attributes that I've learned from the big production and bring them down to a owner operator or a small 5-man shop, person shop.
Yeah.
I don't want to. It makes it much easier for them to understand what's going on. I find that to be the biggest value prop that we do is. It's not just about selling the machine, because if you're not using the machine, it does me no good to sell it. Yeah. In the scheme of things, the equipment for most people, and this is an industry thing. I don't care if it's HP, Canon, Epson. I don't care who it is, what they're selling. It is a consumable-driven business model. So it's not about selling the box, the machine. I need the machine to be printing.
Yeah,
it's not. That one-time invoice of selling the machine is not. It's just like having a customer come in and say, "I need one shirt." Well, I want to do so good on that one shirt that they're going to come back and buy shirts again, and they're going to tell their friends about it, and they're going to come, and that cycle continues.
Yep. So it's building a business of excellence.
Yes,
and I think a lot of that goes back to your attitude in what you're trying to build.
Sure.
Okay, you can, like you said earlier, race to the bottom. I call it the toilet bowl effect in screen printing. Everybody's chasing down the toilet bowl as everybody swirls down and then gets flushed out because nobody can survive in that environment. However, if you're building a business of excellence, customer service, excellent product, you don't have to be the least expensive out there. Your time is valuable. You don't go to the least expensive doctor, do you?
Right.
Right. Least expensive dentist, that type of stuff. Yeah. You go to somebody that has a good reputation. And I think a lot of it's just mentality driven, because in today's society, you think about it, Amazon, all this, it's cheap, cheap, cheap. You go with the cheapest. And I've had to tell my kids this.
Yeah.
They've bought stuff that was much less expensive. And it's like, you should spend that little extra to get the quality, because this is potentially going to break on you. It's not going to last. And you're going to end up rebuying it. And there's a business model in that, but it depends on what you choose to be.
Yeah.
You could care less. I think you had made the comment at one point in time, you'd worked someplace where they said they didn't care if the customer ever came back.
Yeah, they just wanted to sell machines or shoes or whatever it is. Yeah,
it was a one-time sale. Didn't care but it's
because they were looking for that immediate large
cash.
chunk, and then
Yeah,
just
yeah,
looking for
the
and
cash
the next
flow.
one, and the next one. Yeah.
So when you take a look at it from that perspective, it's easier to keep an existing customer than it is to gain a new customer.
Yes. It's very difficult.
I deal with that every day.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I love keeping our current customer base happy.
Because if you can keep them happy, the word spreads.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
much slower. Something bad spreads
Don't tell
10
everybody.
times faster.
Yeah.
If you have something great, it may be 1/10 to 1/50th of that. But if I joke about the 1% rule, continue to improve your business, whatever you're doing, 1% a day. And we've talked about that before. Over the course of 1 year, that's 3,700% increase.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Because it's like saving money with interest. You save, and you never see anything. But down the road, it takes off like a rocket. It's that point of inflection, and you can't do that overnight in a business. It takes years to develop a reputation. You've been in this industry for 20 plus years. You've got a reputation. That's why people have come after you. That's why you're at Millcraft.
Years of learning too.
Years of learning, and that's
Still
the whole
learning.
thing.
Yeah.
And is that experience and building on those learning?
No, there's value to that.
Exactly.
The person that met you today only knows you as who you are now. They don't see.
They didn't know you back when you were doing.
when you were still cutting your teeth. Like,
Yeah.
we're in a 7-second society. Everybody wants everything immediately. Like, it's the impatientness of, I don't want to test because I just want to print.
Yep.
Well, if you test, you're going to be a much
print.
more successful printer. Like, you have to be able to understand both sides of that coin.
Well, that's definitely true. I mean, with immediate gratification, Amazon has kind of set the tone on customer buying habits today.
Yes.
Which is another reason why people that are in the commercial print space need to get into apparel, because the customers are expecting, I can call Pizza Hut and get a custom one-of-a-kind pizza in 15 minutes. Why can't I get a t-shirt? And they need to understand that people are coming to, like, we sell into a lot of UPS stores and stuff like that. So Millcraft is deeply embedded with a lot of large corporations.
Yeah.
Like Abercrombie and Fitch, L Brands, Joann Fabrics, some Fifth Third Bank. So we do a lot with, like webjet printing, where they're doing billing cycles, where they're printing off rolls of paper, and it's moving as fast as a newspaper press. It's all digital, all variable data. It's insane. And it's like, you guys have people coming into your shop looking for business cards. They're looking for letterhead. They're looking for all these other things that are needed for their business. Why are you not selling them their merch?
Yep.
You're sending them somewhere else.
You're doing the artwork anyways.
Right. You've already got it.
You're doing their logo. You have it.
It makes total sense.
Just pop it on a shirt.
It's a longer sell cycle for us, because we are having to, and especially when you're dealing with larger corporations, they've got boards.
Yeah,
We've got to have a board meeting. We've got to wait till next quarter to see if we're going to do this. They're not going to pop like they do on, a owner operator. We sell to those. Not like I'm going to say no, but we don't necessarily market. We're not marketing to them.
Base.
Everybody's marketing to those guys.
Yeah.
So we have, 3,000 or 4,000 print shops we deliver to daily. That's
already with your paper.
Yeah, in our paper world. We have 15 warehouses across 6 states.
Yeah.
So we occupy over 1 million square feet of distribution. We have our own trucking line. So we don't FedEx. Like, if you're in our footprint, if somebody wants to buy ink or pre-treat from us and they're in Des Moines, Iowa, obviously that's going to FedEx to them. But if they're in Akron, Ohio, it's getting delivered on a Millcraft truck. And that's a big difference too. We are that final mile solution. So we try to take the whole process. And the other issue is, like, I try to talk to print shops as well, is that single invoice solution is huge. So now we're not buying our paper from this company. We're not buying our banner material from over here, and our ink from over here, and our preacher from over here. Yep. You're buying all of it from Millcraft. It all comes on one pallet or one shipment at one time. We're there on Tuesday at 3 p.m.
That, right?
Absolutely, there's value to that. And the shops understand that. It's getting them to understand. And most of the time, it comes down to is them coming in and kicking the tires. That's why we do so many road shows and open houses and trade shows, is because I need those people who, they know how t-shirts, they understand the basics of the industry, but they've never actually seen it, touched it, felt it. And then when they see, oh, wow, I just click, drag, print, essentially, yeah. You know,
you
and
already have the background because
Right.
you're doing it anyways from a computer
Exactly.
side. You're not as worried about them figuring out now how do I get this into the computer?
They can spell RGB. Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody starts somewhere, but your customer base is at a more proficient, sophisticated level.
Which is a pro and a con.
It creates a lot more problems on because their expectations are going to be a lot.
Yes.
Or they have a process that they're established with, and you kind of have to
guide them into tweak it
a little bit.
And change their mentality sometimes because I've been printing for 20 years. I know print. Well, you know how to print on a piece of white paper.
Not an absorbent.
Right. We don't print on anything white.
Piece of fabric.
You know, we have to make our own white, you know, and so there's that can definitely be a hindrance sometimes in the training process is getting it through to them. Like, this is not paper. Yeah. This is not like loading up paper into your Xerox and saying, make me a trifold. It doesn't work like that, you know? And so, but once they get past that, then they're phenomenal at it because they have the sales staff, they have the marketing staff, they have the graphic design staff, they understand it. It's now a matter of getting them up to speed with the blanks, getting them up to speed with the processes and the workflows so they can start integrating it. And once it clicks, it goes off.
Yeah. There you go.
But it is a commitment. A lot of people get into the space, and we see it. There's a ton of used machines on the market. Yeah. People jump into it. They as a hobby or as a crafter or as their part-time job, and they don't realize the commitment that's involved. They don't understand that this is a skilled trade. This is just like running a bindery machine or running an offset or a screen printing press. You've got to understand it at a very innate level to be successful with it. It's not as easy as it looks when we're doing it at trade shows, which, I mean, I can get you to that speed though. I can get you up there.
And you have to be willing to learn.
Yes. And you have to have a dedicated staff.
That's all it takes.
We'll have print shops that will be like, well, we're going to go ahead and just this week, we're going to have this person do it. And then next week, we're going to have this person. You can't do that. Yeah. We have to have a dedicated operator so I can train them so that they can start understanding the nuances of print and learn.
Because that gap. Yeah. I forgot what you told me last week. You know, but if you're doing it day in and day out, you're going to pick it up. Are going to be more proficient at it.
Well, and there's so much to try to learn. Like, we do 2 days of training, okay, and in 2 days, I'm shoving so much down your throat that I know that you're not going to remember it. But there's so many things that have to be touched on. What's crazy is that if they're brand new to DTG, brand new to apparel decorating, I'll spend half the first day just talking about the heat press. I spend 2 to 3 hours on the heat press alone because people don't understand how quickly you can ruin a shirt by your heat press with the scorching. With you have a pocket on the back, you don't too cold,
too much pressure.
You don't have you get black spots in your whiting because the pre-treat wasn't completely dried yet.
You've plinkled it,
right? Yeah. Yep.
That ain't coming out.
That's not coming out. Or you flip it over on the back and forget that it has a button on the front or a pocket, and then you get it on the back side, and it doesn't come away. No. So I tell people, I will specifically ruin shirts to show them what will happen. Yeah. And here's why we load it this way. Here's why the process is the way that it is, and explain to them how quickly.
Learning from failures.
Yeah.
All of our shows come back to that. Learning from failures.
Well, that's how you do learn.
Yeah,
but, that's nature, right?
I don't know that I'm saying anything here that it would be too surprising, but there are a ton of people that impatientness, that 7-second society mindset, they just want it now. Like, I was sold it, I was told it could do this, and why is it not doing that?
Yes.
Well, you're not learning from testing. You're not learning from failure. You're just expecting to have a perfect end result without tripping along the way.
Yeah.
But you need to trip a little bit.
You're expecting the perfect marriage without going through the trials to get to that.
And the tribulations. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I agree.
Having that mindset is extremely beneficial.
I mean, I went through $1,000 in t-shirts when I first got started, before I had a sellable shirt. $1,000 worth of shirts.
And at the time, yes, that hurts.
Yes.
That financially, like, your pocketbook is hurting.
I was like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, and then you start questioning everything. Like, why am I? But,
yes.
But it takes that.
Now it's luckily for us that that was 10, 12 years ago. So now the pre-treats have gotten better, the shirts have gotten better, the inks have gotten better, the software has gotten better. So the people who are getting into it now have such an easier learning curve and a hill to climb than what we did 15 years ago.
Yeah. Like, sometimes just personally, and don't take any offense to this, sometimes I just want to, like, when I'm talking to people, just to be like, you have no idea. I wish I could just take you in a little time machine, like 5 years back, and put you in the same spot and really see, oh my gosh, like how far we've come in.
What we didn't have, the knowledge collectively in the industry, we didn't have.
Yeah.
Most people didn't realize most of the problems in the early days came back to the pre-treating, how important that was. The chemicals at the time weren't as good as they are today. All that stuff rolled in together, and why there was so much a failure rate was because of a lot of that.
This is known, especially from us. There was a major ink manufacturer that had a defective ink. The cyan was defective. Based on ink formulation and chemicals, and for how many years in the industry was it that way?
It technically still is, but I won't go. That's another whole thing. But that's because people don't understand. Even the big guys, you get in, you get complacent, you got a product, it's good, and I think for the most part everybody tries to make things better, but it comes down to, like you were saying before, the iterations. You can try to perfect something to the point of obsolescence before it's obsolete before it ever gets out.
Before it comes to market.
But that's where, like, even what we do with the pre-treats, it's you try to make incremental improvements, and you bring out a new product, and then you keep working on it.
And you get market research.
You get all the feedback. You get all the feedback
and all that,
and then you make your changes. Like going back to the doghouse, we talked about the Viper One, the early podcast. There's a reason why we don't do that anymore. We've made improvements.
Well, speaking of which. Okay, we're going to have to end this episode because I believe we have probably hit our point of return. But we haven't, we got the background on your experience, where you've come from, where you're at now. What we want to hit in the second episode will be more along the lines of DTG, where you see it going, DTF, the industry in general, and just your overview of the whole industry, good and bad, and we're gonna go from there.
Sounds exciting.
It is. So I wouldn't expect anything different.
So we appreciate you for this episode, and
it's been a pleasure.
Make sure, if you're watching, to catch the second part of the Eric Deem interview and where the industry is headed here on the Daily DTG.